But what has been happening in the past is that organizations and governments have been addressing even disaster risk in a silo approach as opposed to a holistic way which addresses the structural causes of poverty, which enhances people's capacity to adapt, and also deals with longer-term development. In most cases, if you address the structural causes, you will end up solving many problems which are related to people's vulnerability. And that is what this particular program has really identified. Now, just in summary, the climate smart disaster risk management approach has 12 components under 3 main pillars, as has been mentioned in the video. And the very first pillar is tackling changing disaster risk and uncertainties, enhancing people's adaptive capacity, and addressing, very critical, addressing the poverty, vulnerability, and their structural causes. We note that if you only focus on one particular pillar, you might not end up having the holistic, integrated approach that will address the root causes of some of these vulnerabilities that are coming up and being increased by climate change. Now, what is this climate smart disaster risk management approach? It's mainly an integrated approach which does not focus on one specific area. Most of the organizations and governments, as I'm mentioning, have been just focusing either on enhancement of adaptive capacity or dealing with development on a different scale or handling issues of disaster risk reduction as standalone programs. This is what I was mentioning even earlier, that most of the approaches we have had in the past have handled these issues in silos. So this particular approach is emphasizing the fact that you need to have a holistic, integrated approach that will address all these issues in a very systematic manner. Now, it was very consultative. When we were developing this approach, it was we held several consultations in Asia, Southeast Asia, and East Africa. Over 500 practitioners and policymakers were also consulted in this. And what are these 3 main pillars? The 3 main pillars, as I have said before, are issues to do with tackling changing disaster risk and uncertainties, enhancing adaptive capacity, addressing poverty, vulnerability, and their structural causes. And then under each of the pillars, I'll just mention some key messages on each of these pillars so that, because we have some of the publications, so you'll get a chance to read them. Under pillar 1, for example, the emphasis is on issues to do with strengthening integration and collaboration between development actors, climate change adaptation actors, and disaster risk, and also periodically assessing the effects of climate change on future disaster risk and uncertainties. There are several others which you will read when I give you the publications. Under pillar 2, on the other side, you are seeing what the characteristics of a resilient community would be. The key message there is we need also to ensure that we are integrating the uncertainty brought about by climate change, and also not accepting non-equilibrium. Very, very critical, and policy and practices need to tackle these changing disaster risks and be very flexible. Then under pillar 3, which is also very, very important, is issues of addressing poverty, vulnerability, and their structural causes. So we need to promote socially just, equitable economic systems. Because in most of the countries that we noted, you find that in India, for example, there are cases of people who are being excluded. In East Africa, Kenya, you find there are people who are being marginalized, and they continue to be more and more vulnerable. With the climate change, it's even getting worse. Lessons that we have learned from the field is that if you ensure local and scientific knowledge on seasonal climate forecasting, you will end up with more integrated, holistic approaches and sustainable development. An example has been from the Manyoni area in the Dodoma region, and this has shown that combining indigenous knowledge, scientific approaches will really help you in terms of getting holistic approaches and development. And then also combining different sources of information, analyzing this, and downscaling meteorological information is very, very critical. The approach mainly is supposed to help you in planning, evaluation, and also it's not a checklist basically, but to guide current and future interventions, which and also identifying how to change practice and policy. This particular approach is very effective and very practical and easy to use. It has been made very simple so that all practitioners can adopt it and use it in their various ways based on the areas where they are working. We have several resources. Some of them I have here, which you will get access to, several publications. You will get some of them out there. This is one of them, the Climate Smart Disaster Risk Management Approach. And then we also have an in-brief about the whole approach and how it was developed, and also a guide on how you can use it in various areas. There are also several other publications. If you go to the website, you will get some of this. So this is just information, and these are the partners that are in that particular consortium. Thank you very much.